How rough could this year be for Michigan State? Matt Sheehan of On Spartans joining me here on the show. So, what's the floor? What's the worst season Michigan State could possibly have this year, Matt?
You know, I look right to the schedule when I hear that question. Just on baseline, no matter how bad of a team you are, you look at the first month, it's Florida Atlantic, Maryland, Prairie View A&M, and then Boston College. You go to the last 4 games of the season, it's Indiana, Illinois, Purdue, and Rutgers. Those aren't necessarily haymakers, teams that are going to be in this 12-team playoff. However, I did leave out 4 games. I did leave out Ohio State, your Oregon Ducks, Iowa, and Michigan. Those 4 teams are in the top 5 of the preseason Big Ten poll, so it's going to be a tough middle. But even in your worst, you can manage 4 wins, 5 wins. Right now, the over-under in Vegas is at 4.5. I'm a little more optimistic than Vegas is having us right now, so I would just on the schedule alone, I like that as the floor right now. Are there issues with this team? Let's not get it twisted. Yes, there are. There's some depth issues on the offensive line. The defensive line, Coach Smith kind of alluded to that today at Big Ten Media Days with the offensive line. But everywhere else, you know what? Sure, I know all the headlines were saying, Michigan State lost a bunch to the transfer portal. But not a lot of people want to talk about what we got in the transfer portal. We added a high floor to our secondary. We added a great quarterback. We added a great tight end. So I think it's going to be actually a decent season if they're healthy. And a lot of the health depends on this offensive line because, well, we're going to want to keep Aidan Chiles and all of his 4 limbs functioning the entire season. So stay tuned to see how that's going to work out for us, Spencer.
Indeed I shall, because this is Locked On College Football, and once the season gets here, I don't plan on tuning out until the offseason, quite the opposite, as a matter of fact. But let's talk about what Jonathan Smith said here in Indianapolis. My overall takeaway, Matt, was he didn't say much. He really wasn't even that loquacious with his comments. He's never been, the biggest talker or the greatest quote or anything. It looks like that's carrying over into East Lansing. He knows what answers he wants to give, but he gives pretty standard ones. And for the most part, I just kind of felt it was, the same old Jonathan Smiths we've kind of come to know, where, he says something, it's very quick, and a reporter might spend 10 seconds asking a question, and he might spend 20 seconds answering it, and then he's going on to the next one.
He's concise, he's professional, and really that kind of sets the tone for Michigan State in their next chapter right now. And that's something
he's also, as we record, literally walking like 20 feet right over there. So I hope he didn't hear me.
Can you tell him I said hi, by the way?
Yeah. I'll pass that along. I think that's as professional as it gets, by the way.
Good. Excellent. No problem. So, look, he is concise. He is short with most of his answers. But, before the Big Ten Media Days started, we said that you can't get a lot out of Media Days most of the time. But Michigan State has had a lack of identity the last few years, whether it's on the field, whether it's off the field. Us Michigan State fans, we've heard it the last 8 months, ever since his tenure started, but this was a chance for him to show the conference who he is and who Michigan State is going to be here. So I hope, in a way that this clean, concise professionalism at the podium can go to the football field. You watch Oregon State the last few years, you can certainly see the DNA of that. So, yes, he is short, and what he is also, though, is like it could have gone a lot worse. It could have been Deshaun Foster, not to, absolutely bury the guy even more than he has been buried on social media.
Ouch. Matt firing shots across the bow, but
I don't feel good about it. I know public speaking can be hard for some people, but you say all the time.
I don't think that was his problem.
No one never loses Big Ten Media Days. How can you lose a media day? And it's like, well, I'm glad my coach followed him because he looks great right now compared to that. So.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it is kind of a, media days, just don't lose it, because then you don't want perceptions to be negative. Deshaun Foster lost Media Days. I think that's
tough.
That was a tough look. I mean, the benefit of the doubt thought would be he didn't know he had to give an opening statement, in which case his SID failed him. If he did know and that's what he had prepared, that's not the best image to project. But Jonathan Smith, thankfully for Michigan State fans, doesn't have those sorts of problems. Yeah. One thing I want to talk to you about, Matt, the running game. This is a huge part of what Jonathan Smith teams, really just the one team that he's been the head coach for. But even you go back to his time as his offensive coordinator at Washington, they run the football. They are more traditional. They'll go under center. And Smith talked about the running backs and the sort of playmaking that they bring to the room.
We liked his physicality, his production he's already had. I think it was a nice change up to maybe a little bit different than Nate's skill set, and so having some difference there. in the backfield, maturity, but wanted to have an opportunity for a year to play at the biggest and the best. And he's been working since he's got here. I know he's excited about the opportunity.
Yeah, it's a big cliche here at Michigan State, and as it is with a lot of different programs out there, but physicality, pound green pound was a slogan that was thrown around many years ago. We got to get back to that, and he said as much too, and you've also seen it at his time at Washington and Oregon State, that he lays the foundation with his run game. I'm high on the running backs that they have. I know it was a very tough season for them last year, especially Nate Carter going the last 10 games of the season, finding the end zone as many times as me and you did, Spencer. It was tough. I'm not going to throw all that on Nate Carter. I'm not even going to throw most of it on Nate Carter. He was helpless, thanks to an offensive coordinator that made every single play call as predictable as the sun rising in the east. And also the offensive line was last year. So he's got a good running mate too, which can only help. K'Ron Lynch-Adams out of UMass, 1,000+ yard rusher for the Minutemen over there. They're two guys that are very similarly built. It's not like a lightning and thunder situation where, hey, you got your bowling ball of a guy, you got your flashy quick guy. It's wrecking ball and wrecking ball with these two guys around 6 feet, a little over 200 pounds. So yes, I think that the running game will have a resurgence here. We'll see how much it is going to be in year one because, I can't say it enough. I say it on my show all the time. The starting offensive line, you feel okay about that. We only have one guy in the 2 deep, though, that has any college experience in Dallas Fincher. So injuries are part of football. Jonathan Smith even said it during this press conference today. Yeah, we'll see how it looks if we have to get into the backups here moving on this season.
Speaking of his press conference, I had the chance to ask Jonathan Smith about building a program as he did at Oregon State and also about Michigan State's quarterback, Aidan Chiles. Here's what he had to say.
Some similarities, I guess, coaching transition mid-season in that. And then, but again, I go back, this is a new season. And however the previous season went, really good or really not well, this is going to be a new season, new direction that we're focused on, moving forward. And that's a similar message from both places.
For Aidan Chiles, the experience he got last year at Oregon State, how helpful is that going into his first full year as a starter?
Yeah, it's helpful. Experience, you can't recreate game experience, and so he got some, and that'll be helpful. And now in the same scheme, we're hoping it really helps.
What do you think is the biggest step in his development that you want to see going into this year?
Some of the experience, more and more playing a true game, in and out of series, right? Play the series and then get back out there, adjustments. I just want to make sure that he's having fun playing the game. I think he's at his best when he's having some fun and enjoying the game of football.
What do you expect from Aidan Chiles this year? Because this is freshman-ish. I think that's the best way to describe it. Like, he's played in actual games that mattered. It was a unique situation last year where, I think Smith was planning for the long term if he was going to stay at Oregon State by keeping Chiles interested, by getting him playing time. I think if he'd sat on the bench, he would have gotten offers to go elsewhere because he was such a big recruit, but he doesn't have to worry about that anymore. He's the future of Michigan State. I think you roll him out and let him battle through 2 and 3 or 4 interception games if he has them. I don't expect them, but I think you let him just learn. Like this to me is a house money year for Jonathan Smith. Call some trick plays. Let your young quarterback grow in the system. There shouldn't be big expectations this year. If you make a bowl game, great, but I don't think you need to in order to feel good, especially when you look at the way that he built up Oregon State.
Yeah, it's tough to tamper expectations for Aidan Chiles, and I know I'm part of the problem because we've been hyping him up all offseason, but what does he offer just right off the bat here? And, I know that Lockdown doesn't like harsh language, but we're going to use that F word again, Spencer. The floor. This floor is getting way higher than it was last year with our
Don't tell Zach. I won't tell Zach if you don't. That's our boss.
Might have just lost a sponsor too, but that's okay. But no, this is a floor-raising quarterback. Gave it a few tries last year with 4 different quarterbacks, and it was tough at times. What I also think helps is this isn't your typical transfer quarterback where he's learning a new system, going to a new offensive coordinator, new head coach. No, they all came over as a trio package. And yes, it was just 90-some snaps last year in Corvallis. But it's a whole offseason where you're not relearning everything. I mean, yes, there is still a learning gap with your receivers, the chemistry you build with all of them. But as far as the system goes, it's solid. Now let's just keep him healthy and upright for 12 games because, yes, I know that, hey, you know what, may or may not expect a bowl game, but I think if he is healthy, the floor is high enough for him just as a dual threat quarterback with all the physical traits he has that makes him better than what we've seen the last few years. I could see a bowl game and would even expect a bowl game if he stays healthy the entire season.
Matt Sheehan, Locked On Spartans. IB Spencer McLaughlin, Locked On College Football. Matt, appreciate the time. Enjoyed it as always.
Appreciate you, Spencer. You're the man.
Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you have a most wonderful rest of your day.